Hey everyone, it's Angie Coley, and today I wanted to talk to you a bit about scope creep. If you've never heard of this term, or if you don't know the name for it, it's when you have decided with your client that you're going to work on a particular project. Let's say you decide to do you're a copywriter and you do a 5 email sequence. But then at some point along the way, the client reaches out to you and asks, could you also do this thing? Could you write an about page? It shouldn't take you long. That is one red flag that I don't appreciate. And I will say that I notice in newer freelancers especially this tendency to just kind of get like, oh my God, they asked me to do more. Well, let's break that down, right? They asked you to do more. At what point did they say, could you do this additional thing for completely free? I'll love you forever. If they did do that, they're being kind of a jerk, and it's okay to say, no, I can't, and just let it ride. If they asked you to do something, it's a perfectly reasonable and totally professional response to turn right back around and say, absolutely, my fee for that is, and give them a quote. It does not have to be adversarial. It doesn't have to be frustrating unless you let it be. But I see that happen a lot, with people that have been freelancing for a couple years, getting so completely, like, work-stoppingly, devastatingly overwhelmed with resentment because someone scope creeped on them. And it's a pretty common thing. The thing is that you've got to set boundaries, right? Boundaries. It's always a fun talk. But the fact is that people don't know how you work until you tell them. So if you only accept new work requests via email to a specific work address, it's probably best to tell them that so that they're not texting you asking if you could add another email to the sequence. Reply to that text and say, hey, I appreciate that this is quick and easy. All work requests need to go here, though, so that I can keep track of them. Again, super easy. And the thing that I want to point out here in scope creep and client management and setting and maintaining boundaries is, again, it doesn't have to be adversarial. All you have to do is know how you work best and then make sure that you're communicating that with the client in a level neutral but a don't fuck with me tone. I once had a client that, I stated my working terms. This is, it's 100% payment up front. Once I receive the payment, we'll set a call and, then we'll follow up with the planning out the rest of these deliverables. And somewhere along the way, I sent out the invoice, but we wound up, in the interest of speed, just going ahead and setting a spot on the calendar so that we could get rolling really quickly. Well, we're rolling up to the time of the call, and the invoice still hasn't been paid. And so I canceled the call. I gave them an opportunity and I said, hey, we've got our call scheduled for today. In order to make that happen, I really need this invoice paid before we can get on the phone. If that's a problem, totally get it. Let's reschedule for another time. And again, just not assuming malice, not getting pissed off at somebody perceiving like they're jerking me around, but being a professional, assuming maybe something came up, maybe something changed their mind and they didn't get around to it. But either way, my working term, which was clearly expressed, was you pay the invoice, we get on a call. And so I simply was holding that line that I had drawn in the sand. When the appointment got canceled, the client reached out very, very quickly, in effect, and the invoice was paid within a couple hours, at which point we rescheduled the call. So this does a couple things. It lets the client know that I have boundaries. I hold those boundaries. I'm not going to be a dick about it because there's not really a point to being like, I told you this and blah, 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 and getting into the... It's so much wasted energy and effort to get mad at something like that. I have no idea what's happening in this client's life. They have no idea what's happening in mine. So the best that we've got is communicating with each other without making assumptions. If I don't know something, it's pointless for me to sit here speculating on what might happen. And can you imagine what would have happened if I had immediately gone to, from 0 to 60 and been like, motherfucker, I told you that we don't get on the phone until I get paid. How dare you skip out on that? Like, for someone that might have had a work emergency that they had to deal with, had a sudden death in the family, that's happened before, and was completely offline while they dealt with a personal tragedy, who got in a car accident that morning. Like, life happens, even to business people. It's amazing how that works. So don't assume malice just because somebody hasn't adhered to your terms. Give them an opportunity to step up. I still don't know what's going on with that client, and that's fine. Or what happened with that client to lead them to not pay the bill, to pay the invoice on time. But it's not really my business either. It's not my job to be best friends and best buddies with my clients. I have a job to do, which is to get them results. I'm not necessarily calling these people up after the job is over and being like, hey, you want to get a beer? I'm feeling kind of depressed. So all of this to say, to at the risk of oversimplifying client relationships a little bit, remember to be a pro. Don't assume malice. If the client is doing something that's frustrating you, odds are you need to clearly articulate a boundary and a consequence for violating that boundary. So, to go back to my example, the consequence for violating my boundary was the call was canceled. It's not, I'm going to burn you, I'm going to give you a shitty Yelp review, I'm going to tell all my friends that you're an asshole. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. There's no need to be that person. You can still be a total pro without ever having to go to the mudslinging route. In fact, most of the most successful people that I know will go out of their way to avoid burning people. And, as good as scorched earth might feel in your mind, sometimes the consequences and the fallout from that are rarely worth it, guys. So feel the feelings. Feelings are valid. It's okay to feel them. Don't act on them. A total crisis, upheaval, a mood is not a time to make an action. Get yourself back to center. Come up with reason, could have been in a car accident, could have done this, could have done that. There's any number of reasons that I don't know about why this client is behaving this way. All I know is that I need to tell them, your requests for more work need to go over here. And then when they send that, because you've passed the ball back to them, when they send their request for work over to where you told them, you say, sure, happy to help. Here's how much money. Or you say, I actually don't have time in my schedule to do that right now. If you can wait until later, I'm happy to work up a quote. So just deep breaths. When someone's frustrating you, default to, we've got a communication problem here, and become that pro who reaches out and communicates and establishes a lifeline and doesn't make it a walking on eggshells relationship where anytime they make a mistake, they fear your wrath, so to speak. That's how you kill your business pretty quickly. You develop a reputation for being a hothead, and this is from a reformed hothead who has threatened to burn down a building when she got really pissed off. Thankfully, they knew I wasn't serious and didn't call the cops. But it's so much better and so much easier if you don't let your temper control you, if you don't let those assumptions. And here's one final point that I want to end on. There are a lot of freelancer communities out there, and a lot of them have what I call an echo chamber mentality, meaning whatever you bring to the group that you're feeling, if you're feeling some kind of way, you're not going to necessarily get somebody that's talking you down or giving you reasons not to feel that way. Odds are you're going to get a bunch of people who are feeling their own feelings into your situation. They're using a situation that they've been in to get outraged on your behalf. And suddenly you're in an echo chamber where, if you're asking, on Reddit, am I the asshole? people are going, oh, hell no, that client, blah, 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 and getting you all riled up. It doesn't serve you to go to the echo chamber if you're looking for a way to calm down about your client. And here's the thing. The only person that can help you solve a problem between you and your client is your client. So going to the echo chamber again, it really doesn't help solve anything unless you are deliberately looking for ways to bridge that communication gap, regain your composure and your focus, and then get back to work and be a pro. So that's what I've got for you today. Let's go kick some ass.